Welcome to the 20th episode of Warmaster's Workshop. Over the past 2 years, we've been providing you with tutorials on how to build your Mandalorian armor costumes, how to do the hard parts and the electronics. We're going to be expanding across over the next year into soft parts and the like, but I just want to say congratulations and thank you all for supporting the tutorials and the efforts of Warmaster's Workshop. I am holding a giveaway contest on my Facebook page. So if you go to Facebook and you search for Mandalore the Uniter, click the giveaway tab, and you'll see that I'm giving away a full painted and finished set of torso PVC or Sintra Mandalorian armor. So please feel free to go and enter. And good luck. So let's go ahead and get started. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the various materials that you can use for masking. So there's three kinds that people tend to use. The most common, which is toothpaste. This is actually watered down latex masking fluid, and this is just some petroleum jelly. And that's the three common items. People also use. I've seen people do salt, like wetted down salt. I've seen people do use mustard, any kind of thick, movable material like that that is highly viscous would make a very good or suitable masking material. So anyway, we're going to stick with these three because these are the three that are used most often. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply some of the material on our, this is just some PVC Sintra. We're going to apply the masking material on here, and then we're going to paint it, and we're going to see how well each of these do as a masking material. So to begin with, we're going to start on this side. We're going to start with the toothpaste. So I'm just going to move these two off to the side. I'm trying to color coordinate it here, so. Oh, it's a nice, pretty pink dollar store toothpaste. So we just take a little bit. Bring this over. We're going to bring the camera down a little bit. We just take a little bit of toothpaste. It's just a small dab. And we're just going to rub it across where we want to mask. I'm actually going to mask all of the edges on this. And this is a previously used piece of Sintra, so it doesn't look the greatest, but it doesn't have to for this. And I'm just using, like I said, little tiny bits. I will say the one thing that worries me the most about using this toothpaste is that I don't know how easy it's going to be to layer our weathering. I'm just going around the outside. That's where I tend to do the most of my weathering, is right around the outside. So I'm just sticking with what I know here. We're going to do that with all of these. We're just going to go around the outside. I will say that this stuff is a little bit sticky. So I don't know if I can use my tap method to apply it as easily as I can with something that's a little more watery. You don't get any real control about how thick this is. I mean, it's toothpaste. You get it the thickness of toothpaste. actually got a little bit on my finger there. The good thing is none of these materials are toxic. So, alright, so we got that one done. I'm just going to set it right up here. And now let's go with, it is not extra virgin olive oil. This is just my own home brew. Now, the good thing about masking fluid is it does dry and get nice, and it does get hard. And you can buy this stuff. There's a brand called Winsor & Newton that you can buy. It's pretty expensive. I think it runs about $13 or so for a little glass bottle that's slightly smaller than this, or maybe around the same size, but it lasts a long time. It doesn't take a lot of masking fluid to do what you need to do. Now, you can make your own masking fluid, and I talk about this in a lot of live streams and in some of the other tutorials. You can make it with if you've got a Halloween store, or if you go on Amazon, you can get the you can get the prosthetic latex for Halloween. That stuff's super cheap after during Halloween and after Halloween. It's a lot of times even cheaper. If you're here in the U.S., we have the Spirit store during at Halloween. Also, you can go to like Party City, somewhere like that, and get some. And then all you got to do is pour a little bit in a container and water it down with water until you get the consistency that you want to get. And that's what I really like about latex is you can water it down and you can make it. This is really watery. What I use, very loose, as you'd call it. If you wanted to keep it a tighter mixture or thicker, you just wouldn't add as much water. You'd have more latex than water. All right, so there is our latex masking fluid. We'll put that down to the side, and I'm going to try to keep from getting more toothpaste on me, but I don't think that's going to happen. Close that up because I don't want it spilling out. All right, last but not least is our petroleum jelly. So this is a brand new bottle of this stuff, and all I'm going to do is I'm just barely rubbing it on the top, and you see you get that nice little glob. So let me bring the camera down a little bit. Now you can't hardly see me putting this on, but I promise you it's there. See, you can sort of see it right in here. There you go. Now that the camera's decided to focus a little bit. And I think what we'll do is, once we get this done, we're just going to compare it and see, once we get this painted. And we will do a layered technique of, we'll do the layered technique. So we will have to come back in and layer this. And what I will probably do is wipe these pieces off after they've dried, everything except for the silicone, or for the latex. I'll wipe these pieces off of the petroleum jelly and of the toothpaste, and then we'll do our layered technique that way with a fresh coat of each of the materials, so that we're not trying to go on top of the other material, and because it doesn't dry, and the petroleum jelly and the toothpaste aren't going to dry and be nice and stable and sit there. So anyway, I'm going to paint these three, and we're going to come back and pull the material off, and then let's see how it looks. All right, so we've done our painting and we've removed our masking fluid. And so let's go over the different tiles here and see exactly how well the masking fluid did its job. And then I'll also explain um, exactly what or how easy it was to remove and any downfalls that I may have had. And then we'll move on to the second layer of weathering to get our layered weathering effects. So let's start out with this is the toothpaste. And as you can see, it weathered up really nice. Got the nice um, craggy edges there, where you've got the real kind of chaotic looking edges where the paint looks like it's chipped away. Now, the one thing that I will say, the part on here that, or the part with the toothpaste that I felt was a little bit worrisome, was that it's very delicate when it's on here. Um, so when you paint with it, it's fine. But if you touch that toothpaste at any point, it will. I mean, it totally comes off. I mean, it doesn't. There's no drying or anything. It is permanently in a wet, very loose paste form. But it does the job really well. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to coat this one with more toothpaste. Then we're going to use, another color, probably red or something like that, so it shows up real well. Now this is petroleum jelly. Probably wasn't the smartest idea of me to use gray Centra with gray primer, but you can see where it did the same thing, same job. Basically, it worked the same as a toothpaste. The one thing that I will say about the petroleum jelly, though, is that it is a bit more stable when it's on here. It's not as easy to accidentally brush off if you need to keep it on there. So, petroleum jelly is another one that passes in my book. And then, of course, we've got the uh, the masking fluid, the latex masking fluid, which worked exactly the same way. You get the nice chaotic edges. It's a little bit thinner around the outside. That's because we just put on a really thin layer. And also, the latex masking fluid, when it does have a tendency to contract, so you actually cover less surface area in the long run. So keep that in mind. You may need to lay it on a little bit thicker than normal, but it does contract. So what you think is maybe a large area of masked uh, uh, material actually ends up being not as much. So that's something I wouldn't call that a pitfall, but it is definitely something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and recoat these. We're going to start with the toothpaste, and I did keep all of the cotton bud applicators here. So what we want to make sure that we do with this is we want to go over the previous. Let me get more toothpaste. There we go. We want to go over the previously masked areas and then slightly in a bit. And the reason why you go over the previously masked areas is because you don't want to paint over that. Now, for me, since I usually use masking fluid, I don't normally take the masking fluid off until quite a bit, until I'm done with all the layers of paint. I just leave it on and go over it. Now, I'm going to be honest, that's not going to happen with toothpaste. The minute you leave it on there and try to go over it, you're going to end up smearing it all over the place. So, because it doesn't dry. So again, that's kind of, in my opinion, the downfall of toothpaste. I'm not really sure about the petroleum jelly because, although it does seem to be a little bit more stable, I will say that I don't think that it's going to take being having more petroleum jelly applied over an existing layer. I don't think it's going to be stable for that. I think it's stable for touch, and that's probably about where the stability ends. Now, some people may not matter. It may not matter to them if some of the other weathering gets covered. To me, I like to uh, really make sure that my weathering to me looks even. Of course, that's always, at least as far as the layers go. Um, that's a personal preference. If you paint over a little bit of your weathering, look, it's definitely not the end of the world if you paint over it. So I would not stress that. There's definitely bigger items to stress when working on your kit. That one is not one of them. Let's set that right up there so it's a little bit easier to grab. It's another thing with the toothpaste is you don't want to touch it, so you have to hold it a little bit delicately and not get your finger on the actual paste itself. All right, I think that's covered pretty well. I'm just going over all these little bits where I feel like I might accidentally paint over my weathered areas. All right, so that one's done. So put the cap back on that, and let's move on to our petroleum jelly. The one thing I do like about the petroleum jelly is it doesn't take a lot. I mean, like, literally, you just swab this thing in there a little bit. See, it doesn't take a lot. The one thing I don't like about petroleum jelly watching this is that it's hard to know when I've actually got all of this covered because I mean it's clear. So I don't really know if I've got all of my areas really coated as well as I want to. I don't know if they make colored petroleum jelly pigmented, but you just kind of have to look for the line of the jelly. And again, I'm making sure that I cover the area that I've already, is the technical weathering area. Then you bring in your masking material a little bit, maybe, I don't know, eighth of an inch or so. All right, so that one's done. Let's move back to my masking fluid, a little bit of a shake there. Just gonna pour some into this lid because that's what I normally do. Put a generous amount on here because, again, I don't want it to contract and then leave spaces unweathered. Just nice and even coated. And then we'll let this dry because the masking fluid, that's one thing you got to worry about on masking fluid is the dry time. You got to let it dry. So that adds a little bit of time. The other two here, you don't really have to wait for them to dry. You just go. You spread and go. All right, let me put that, there we go, back in the bottle. All right, so we're going to let these dry. And then we'll begin our weathering quest to see if the top layer or the next layer, how it works. So, and how it looks. So let's let this one dry here, and I'm gonna hit it with some red paint, and remove the weathering, and we'll see how it looks. All right, so we've got our 3 tiles with the top coat. So let's go ahead and wipe off the weathering and see how it looks. So this is the toothpaste, and I will say that this still smells minty fresh. Oh wow. The toothpaste is like, it's almost like it's baked on. There we go. It's really hot, so I set these outside. All right, I had to get some water because this stuff is on there like baked on. So let's see. And I don't know if that's from the plastic getting hot or if that's some kind of, if somehow the paint reacted with it. This is a different, this layer is a bit different from, or what I used for this paint. Let me get a piece of something a little more firm here. Here we are. Here's a piece of cardboard. Let's see if we can scrape this off. I use Krylon for the top coat. Of course, the primer in the the bottom coat was Rust-Oleum, so surely that didn't have anything to do with it. Wow. Okay, well, I don't know what happened there, but we're going to leave that the way it is. So we definitely got some weathering on there, and I think if you, yeah, it looks like if you add some more force to it, it does come off. There we go. I'm kind of having to scrub this off with my finger. Maybe if you had like a, if you use like a sponge, might be able to get it off of there a little bit easy. Maybe one of those little scrub sponges if you go lightly with it. There you go. It's coming off. It's just it must not have liked being out in the sun. The first layer came off without a hitch, but I also painted that later in the evening. There we go. It's coming. It's almost off. Once you get it up, once you get that a little bit off, it starts to come off pretty good. There we go. One little more shake in the water there, and I think there we go. Now, all right. So there is toothpaste. That took a bit. Now this is the petroleum jelly. You can see here how it just got a little bit hot and it started to run, but it didn't hurt anything because we didn't mask that side out. So the petroleum, look at that. It just wipes off. So the only thing I really see with the petroleum jelly are the spots where the jelly didn't cover and we couldn't tell because the jelly's clear. So you've got a little bit of overspray here, but that's not really a big deal. You got a really nice two-tone weathering in both of these, really. A lot less work with the petroleum jelly in getting it off of there. Now let's come over here to the latex. Liquid latex comes up pretty easily. You actually can just take it up with your fingers. That's what I normally do. The friction of your finger, of the heat of your finger loosens it up and it comes right off. Now, the latex method is a little bit messy because you got those little rolls of latex. See, that's a little bit messy with the latex. Yeah, let me get these little bits off of here. There we go. And there we have it. There are our 3 methods of weathering. We have toothpaste, which smells actually nice and cinnamony. And then we've got our petroleum jelly, which actually went on and came off the easiest out of all of them. I was actually surprised that the petroleum jelly required the least amount of actual work. But with it being somewhat clear, it's hard to tell that if you've got it over all of the material that you're masking. So yeah, the petroleum jelly was definitely the easiest to apply and to take off. And then we've got the latex masking fluid, which I think kind of leaves a little more cleaner edge to your. And I don't when I say cleaner, I don't mean like straight edges. It just leaves, in my opinion, a little bit better uh, weathering edge. But other than that, um, between all 3 of them, I mean, um, as far as applying it and the product that you come out with, I mean, I kind of think that the petroleum jelly is sort of the winner, especially for the basic level, the learner. And if you're just learning how to do this, definitely um, the petroleum jelly. There we go. The petroleum jelly is definitely the way to go for the novice um, Mandalorian armor smith. I wouldn't really fool with the toothpaste. To me, that was more trouble than it was worth, especially at the end, having to get all that off and really scrub it to get it off. I mean, yeah, it leaves a really nice weathering edge. Leaves a really nice chaotic edge for weathering like that. I just feel like, next to the petroleum jelly, you get the same thing for less actual effort. So we're just going to say bye bye to Mr. Toothpaste, and I'm saying petroleum jelly wins. Um, the latex masking fluid comes in second place, so we'll set it over here to the side, and we're going to call petroleum jelly the winner. Congratulations, petroleum jelly, for winning the the weathering challenge. So I hope that you have found this tutorial informative. I know it's been informative for me because I've never used petroleum jelly for weathering before. So if you have, please feel free to continue supporting the creation of these tutorials on Patreon. You can see the link here in the film, but it's patreon.com/warmastersworkshop. I want to thank everybody for putting up with me for the last 2 years and producing these Warmasters Workshop tutorials. I look forward to 2 more years. I've had a great time doing this, and thank you for episode 20. Really appreciate it. And until next time,